Hey everyone, John from ARTV signing in for another very special throwback review, Paramore's second album, RIOT. I asked you guys over on Twitter which one I should review. Which between the two do you want to see me talk about, RIOT or else All We Know Is Falling? And by a landslide, I'm talking like a major landslide, RIOT won the vote, which kind of surprised me considering how many requests I've had for the other album, All We Know Is Falling, their debut over time. If you guys would still like to see that, help me get this video to 1,000 likes. If this gets to 1,000 likes, I will review All We Know Is Falling after the release of After Laughter, their brand new record. So obviously, I've been celebrating the release of this new Paramore album with a lot of Paramore themed videos. So I hope you're not getting sick of me talking about them, but I did kind of want to do a redemption review of RIOT because my original was 3 minutes long. I put it up in 2012 and it is god awful. I don't know what I was doing. It was even worse than the Brand New Eyes one. I don't even want to show you guys a clip from it because it is that bad. It is unlisted. If you're able to somehow to find this, then I commend you, but I don't recommend searching it out. For anyone wondering how I got into Paramore, it was this album, RIOT. Misery Business was obviously their breakthrough single, and that was my first exposure to them. That, along with Crushcrushcrush, and That's What You Get, were all blowing up. My friends were into them. I was into them. I was a little bit ahead of the curve because I was buying their albums and actually listening to like all of the songs instead of just the ones that appeared on like the Rock Band track listing and that sort of thing. And that gave me a little bit of advantage later on whenever people were coming to me and saying, you know, like, oh, what song should I check from Paramore? And instead of just saying, oh, you know, Misery Business, Emergency, and that sort of thing, instead of those cop-out answers, I could actually say, oh, well, if you want something slower, I could say, well, When It Rains is a great one, or else We Are Broken, and I love Born for This, and that sort of thing. So it was kind of cool, and I loved that I kind of got into this band whenever they were really starting to take off, and I've been able to stick with them over time and love them even more. Now, unfortunately, at this point, I would say that my two least favorite albums from them are these two right here. I've loved them even more over time. Brand New Eyes and the self-titled are my favorites as of now. We'll see if After Laughter changes that, exactly where they will be ranked, but I will be doing a ranked episode as soon as that album has had time to settle in with me. I'll be ranking all of their studio albums from worst to best. Whereas their debut, All We Know Is Falling, was a little bit more dedicated to like emo and rock and really just fast-paced rock and riffage and that sort of thing, I think RIOT wasn't afraid to show its sensitive side. And honestly, I'm not in love with every song here by any means. I'm not totally attached to them, even though this was my first Paramore album. Honestly, at this point, these are my two least favorite records from them. I'm not like head over heels for All We Know or RIOT, even though I wouldn't rate any Paramore album under a 4. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm not here to slam this album at all. I just want you to know that yes, John, even John from ARTV, the biggest Paramore fan, is still a little bit critical of some of their material. Before we get into a few slight issues that I have to praise the hell out of some of these moments that work so well. Now, I'm enamored with Part 2, which is a sequel to Let the Flames Begin off of this very album. That song appeared on the self-titled, and both of those are just counterparts that work together so well. It's not just a sequel in name only. It borrows from the lyrical content, the style, and the musings behind this track. It all flows together oddly well, and I love that. It all started here, back in probably like 2006 whenever they were writing for the record. It got released in 2007, and this stands tall as one of my favorite Paramore songs. Haley's voice soars on the chorus on this one as she sings Oh Glory, and then the backing vocals and everything about this track really just rivets. Hallelujah was always one of my favorite songs that caught my ear. I love the infectious guitar melody on this one, and the way that the vocals just kind of soothe, you know, We'll Make This Last Forever, and the way that she brings the chorus to your attention. It's not something that's so hard-hitting, but the opening guitars and some of the drums throughout the track are the ones that really steal the show. Let's talk about the three big singles, the three amigos. That's What You Get, Misery Business, and Crushcrushcrush. We'll go in that order, starting with my least favorite, That's What You Get. Unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of this song. I was at one time. I was definitely kind of enamored with it at one point. Everybody loved playing it on Rock Band, but maybe I just burned myself out on it. That's what you get when you let your heart win, and kind of the wimpy whoa, I never cared for that part of the song. It's a little bit of a cop-out in my opinion, but the rest of the song does still work well. I've warmed up to it again with time, but then I look to other songs on this record and it just feels like a weaker part, a weaker element on an album that is, at its core, very, very strong. Misery Business, blast the hell out. It just really just slams on that gas pedal as soon as you get past that little intro. I've always loved that, the way that it's kind of played on a little string section before actually getting into the track, and it just crushes you with these guitars. And then Hayley is almost just talking so fast, and then the way that she's just basically putting these put downs on this other girl that is basically chasing this guy that she's after. And while Hayley obviously no longer stands by the meaning of this song or anything like that, she's definitely a believer in building other women up rather than tearing them down. But it's your teenage days. Obviously, it's a little bit more excusable, and this song is fun as hell. One of my favorite Paramore songs. Obviously, it's a staple for them still to this day. People love it, and a new generation has connected with it for a reason. I could describe Crush 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 as kind of a dark little tidal wave that slowly overtakes you. I love the lyrical content here. The drums on it are fantastic. It's different. It's one that stands out. There's a different guitar tone on this one, and it kind of builds before that chorus hits. Nothing compares to. When you hear those first words, you know that it's really, really broken in, and it slowly gets stuck in your memory. And it's one that I've been coming back to even more recently, obviously getting hyped for a new Paramore release, but also acknowledging how great of a song this is. I love the part before the chorus, the little pre-chorus that we get there. They taped over your mouth, scribbled out the truth with their lies, your little spies. It's something that basically kind of comments on what's going on with her friends at the time. I feel like relating it to other things, and obviously it could be totally something else, but at the same time, it's always something that I kind of found relatable because I would sing the hell out of this song. I remember, like, with my friends driving around in the car, it was so much fun. Unfortunately, some of these moments do kind of run together in my mind. They make it a little bit harder to separate. Like Miracle, I like the guitars on it, but kind of the vocal tone on that one, it doesn't seem like it's anything that exciting, and I really don't feel like we've gotten to the best of Hayley Williams at this point in the album or at this point in their career. That really started to take off with Brand New Eyes and the self-titled and going forward. It's something that has just only gotten better as she's gotten older. And not to say that she was doing terrible on this album by any means. She was knocking it out of the park considering other vocalists in her kind of style, her range, and her age and that sort of thing. She was blowing them out of the water. But here on this one in particular, I really feel like it kind of gets lost in the mix. And I can say the same for Born for this as well. Even though I like that song and I listen to it quite often, I have to be critical for just a moment and say that this one feels a little bit too similar to their debut. In fact, it kind of borrows from the lyrical content on it. I don't know if that was something that they meant to do, but they're basically once again talking about pressure. I mean, they had a single called Pressure on the first album, and here it seems to be like the pressure's getting to them again, and I don't know if we're supposed to be on board with this being a sequel perhaps, but I don't care for this one as much, and it's gotten to me and bothered me a little bit more over time. That really doesn't detract from my overall enjoyment of this record. In fact, there's two other big songs that I really have to praise before I go. The first of those being the opening track for A Pessimist, I'm Pretty Optimistic. The great guitars on this one, it's the perfect alternative rock jam. Really, every member of the band comes through with a great performance. The drums always stood out to me here, even those little bass grooves that go in the background, and Hayley's vocals. I put my faith in you, so much faith in you. Come on, it's a classic. It's a staple for Paramore at this point. Fences gave insight way beyond their years in terms of its wisdom. It talks about the paparazzi and everybody with their little cameras wanting to get everything. And obviously this was 10 years ago. This is basically my 10th anniversary review of Riot. This is something that was before everybody had an iPhone and everybody could do this. They were surrounded by paparazzi and people wanting to find out all of the details of their life. Oh, who's Hayley dating? What's going on with Zach and Josh? What's going on with Jeremy? What is fucking Taylor up to? Who knows? He's probably curling his hair somewhere. I don't know where that came from, but the song is truly perfect. I love the social commentary, and the way that the chorus is constructed, it's so different. The way that her vocals are kind of like more broken up instead of just being a total plow through. It's something that gives you time to focus on the guitar and the very drum pattern on this one as well. It almost feels like a little bit of a Western vibe, the way that it starts at the top of the track with kind of like a rolling, rollicking drum, and then those fast, choppy guitars that cut their way in as this song progresses. It's probably my favorite favorite on the album at this point because I can keep coming back to it and I just get so much entertainment from it. There's an acoustic version of Misery Business that does appear on a lot of editions of this record, Riot, and I do recommend giving it a listen. It's very, very enjoyable. It's something that's pleasant on the ears, and it kind of gives you a different perspective and take on the song in general. Overall, for this record, Riot, though, I do still love it. It does feel dated in places, and like I said, those moments that I called out, I don't dislike those songs at all. It's just me being a little bit nitpicky, especially now looking at it from an older perspective. I was 15 when this came out, I'm 25 now, and especially comparing it to stuff like Brand New Eyes, that came out when I was 17 years old, and I still love it, and I feel like it's very, very mature. I feel like they did a lot of growing up between Riot and Brand New Eyes, but Riot is still a fantastic release. Probably, honestly, at this point, as I've been listening through all of the records, it might be my least favorite. It's between that and All We Know Is Falling, but they've never released a bad album. Me, I'm going with a 4 out of 5 for Riot, their second studio album. Let me know your thoughts on Riot 10 years later in the comments section down below, and if you're able to, help me out on Patreon. Click that little annotation over there in the corner. Be sure to leave a like. Keep in mind, if this video does get to 1,000 likes, I will review All We Know Is Falling. If you would like to find me on social media, you can find it over in the description. That's how you vote on polls. Keep up to date all things ARTV, another Paramore video here, and a recent review right here. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.